Ambassador, thank you for all you're doing to promote U.S. trade around the world. I know that in testimony earlier today, you said that the United States wouldn't agree to a trade deal with the United Kingdom unless the U.K. lowered barriers and provided fair access for U.S. agricultural products, including U.S. meat imports. I applaud that position. You and I have had talked time and time again about how much our ag producers are hurting and how we can and should be doing more to help them. One way we can do more is by making sure that our trade agreements require our allies and trading partners to rely on sound science. Do you agree that many food standards are actually disguised protectionism? And the follow-up question is, what is the best way to stop that practice?
So, Senator, I completely agree with you. I made the statement this morning that the European Union has raised this practice of using standards really as protectionism to a high art, and I believe they have. They now, in terms of some residue, maximum residue levels, they actually have, if there's any detection at all, the product is unacceptable. To me, that is just plain protectionism, and making every regulation science-based is the equivalent of getting rid of protectionism. It's the equivalent of getting rid of any other non-tariff trade barrier. And it's something on which, if anything, I would say Europe is going in the wrong direction, not in the right direction. They're being controlled by protectionist interests. And, well, let me just leave it at that, protectionist interests. In my judgment, we have to insist on science-based standards for our farmers. And I would say this standards thing is not just an ag issue, right? I mean, they're using standards in industry too. It's not just it's a higher art in ag, but they use it in industry too. We have to insist on it, and to the extent people deny us access, we shouldn't give them a trade agreement. And if we don't have a trade agreement, then in my judgment, we ought to be taking trade actions against them. And I'm looking right now at whether or not some of these actions, I want to consult with you and your staff, whether or not right now we shouldn't be looking at a 301 on some of these things. It's getting so far out of control where they say literally, if there's any detectable residue, the product is unacceptable. That's just, there's nothing to do with science.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. You have our full support on that. Keep fighting that good fight. You had talked earlier about the digital services taxes that are being applied in Europe, and I'm wondering if you expect the trend of unilateral digital services taxes to worsen due to additional revenue shortfalls resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. Are we going to see more of this?
I mean, I think we're going to see more of it for sure, whether it's a result of the COVID. I think they were going to do it anyway. I think it's a natural inclination to tax somebody else's citizens if you can do it, because there's no political price for it. And we've seen it. We just brought 12 more cases, and we're going to continue to bring them as people do it, and we're going to take action if there isn't some agreement internationally that says, here's how we're going to treat companies that make money in your market but don't have a physical presence there.
And I appreciate your all the things your office has done to launch Section 301 investigations into those taxes earlier this month. So, in your testimony, you suggest that the way to strengthen our existing trade policies to better protect Americans is to tighten de minimis thresholds for imports. And last year, during a USMCA hearing before this committee, we heard from a small business owner who said that the de minimis level helped her grow her business. Rather than hurt small businesses like hers, I would suggest that another option you have to strengthen de minimis is to negotiate agreements that increase our negotiating partners' de minimis thresholds. And based on your testimony, it appears you will have some upcoming opportunities to pursue this other option, and I will add Congress will be very likely to support you in that effort. So do you agree with me that there are multiple ways of addressing your concerns related to de minimis?
So for sure, I agree with that. And we tried to do it in USMCA. We're at $800. These are approximate. You know, Mexico is at 20 and Canada is at 40, and they doubled theirs. And to me, to me, there may be small businesses. I think we need to study the issue, to be honest. If you look at where countries are, it's unbelievable the difference. We're like, other than Australia, where we're much bigger than everyone else, we're 50 times more. I would like to study the issue and have the committee. I think it's costing far more jobs than it is helping. And I think nobody anticipated that as a result of this, we would have 1 million packages a day from China take advantage of this $800. 1 million a day. I mean, the numbers are staggering. It's 600, but depending on how you count, 700 million packages a year come into the United States taking advantage of this. We don't know what's in part of it. We don't have any way of checking. They basically avoid customs. To me, it's a real problem. And I think, if you ask me, why does every other country keep it small? It's because their small retailers realize that these online people will put them out of business if they raise it. So I have exactly the opposite. I'd really love to get involved in this with the committee and have the committee study what the facts on the ground are.
We welcome that opportunity. I see my time's expired, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.